Hi, good morning, Gracie. It's your dad. I'm making this video for when you're a teenager. Um, my hope is that when you get old enough, you'll search for my name. If your mom has let you know what my name is, um, or if that doesn't work, you will search under your own name and you'll find this video. And I'm going to title it something like A Message for My Teenage Daughter. So I do have a lot of videos of you and of myself I've posted to YouTube. And I want this to stand out so you know it was directed to you when you reach an age that you might be able to start to understand. I'm afraid that your mom is never going to let me be with you. She's really done everything she can to make sure I'm not in your life. I want to try to kind of explain that to you. It was always your mother's intent to use me to have a child and then to discard me. And that hurt a lot, especially because I started to understand that that was her purpose, just to have a child and then to get rid of me. I know it's going to be very hard to understand because it's very hard for me to understand why anyone would do that. But I've come to understand that with your mom, she doesn't really feel any remorse for using people. I've never seen your mom in all the time I've known her, and I've known her for now, I guess, about 8 years. I don't think she's ever felt remorse for anything she's done in her entire life. I just don't think she's capable of that feeling. And that was very hard to deal with your mom, because if someone's hurting you constantly and they don't feel bad about it, it's really hard to talk to them to get them to stop hurting you. Your mom would be very abusive and then apologize for that abuse when I kept talking to her about how much it was hurting me and what it was, doing to our family. And she never apologized because she was remorseful for the abuse. That I'm positive of. It was more just trying to get me to not talk anymore. She never really feels bad about doing anything, and she always feels justified in doing whatever she would want to do to me. No matter whatever she said hurt me so bad, or later on when it started to get physical, she never felt bad about it. She apologized to me literally hundreds of times, probably over 1,000 times actually, saying she would stop the abuse. And it was hard because she could apologize, and in the very next sentence, and I've even heard it in the exact same sentence as her apology, she will say something very abusive and very cruel or very mean to me. And that was hard to deal with, because I'd be like, you literally have just the last sentence apologized to me for abusing me, and then the very next sentence you do it again. And I actually went through days with her where she could apologize 12 times in the same day, one right after the another, and then immediately start the abuse again. And the reason that happens is because she doesn't feel bad about what she's saying. Now, eventually, with your mom, I started being verbally abusive back, and I shouldn't have done that, but I was under so much stress, and I found that the only way to stop her abuse of me was to be verbally abusive back to her. And that was a really big mistake, because then she used that to justify everything she did. So that's something I should not have done. And even when I was saying nasty things to your mom, for a person like me, I felt bad when I was saying it. And I always felt bad after I said it. But that's not really the case with your mom. She never really feels bad about what she does. She's really not capable of feeling how she hurts someone. And she's very capable of rage. And rage is really her only emotion that I ever really saw. She's not really an emotional person. But she can actually be enraged by me if I tell her she's hurting me. That actually makes her even more mad, that I would dare say she's hurting me. And all these things are very hard for me to understand. And I kind of finally have come to grips with it and kind of starting to understand like why she does what she does. And I don't really think she has any control over it. I think it's just the way she is, and no amount of trying to convince her to act otherwise is going to work. No amount of trying to ask for sympathy or understanding or for kindness is gonna work. She doesn't care. So I've given up on really trying to get her to let me be in your life. I mean, I keep asking her to be. That's not really right. That's not what I said is incorrect. I haven't given up. I try, but I've given up the expectation that she will ever let me. But I know I have to keep asking to be in your life. Otherwise, you're not going to know I wanted to be in your life. And she's going to claim I didn't want to be in your life. Neither of which are true. So I continue to ask her to see you. I asked through her attorney 22 times now to be in your life, to see you, to play with you, to just even talk to you on the phone. And 22 times your mom has not replied. And that was pretty typical of when I was living with your mom. She had the ability, she had such a need to dominate. And one of the ways she dominated was she wouldn't talk to me. You know, if I told her I was hurting, or I told her we needed to have a better life, she just really wouldn't talk. Her ability to just ignore me is just amazing, because it's really hard when someone's talking to you. Like if I come up to you, Gracie, and I start talking to you, it's very hard for you to just ignore me completely. Your natural reaction as a normal human being is to listen or want to say something back. She doesn't have those inclinations, but she just doesn't care or doesn't see other people as having any value. So I don't know where I'm going with that now. I kind of lost track. But so I guess the main point is that your mom doesn't ever feel remorse for anything. She initially started the abuse, I think, in order to get rid of me. She didn't want me in your life. You know, I made her pregnant, she had the child, you, and after that, she had no need for me. Your mom only, I think, had a relationship with me as a means to an end, and that was to have you. And I went along with it because I really desperately wanted to have you. I actually wanted several children, and she promised that she would have 2 or 3 children, but she never meant that. Anyway, the abuse never ended because she never felt remorse. She never felt bad about what she did. Not ever. And I didn't handle it very well. I mean, it's very hard to be abused on a daily basis. It was really destroying my health, and she knew it was, and I think she knew that if she... Sorry, someone walked by there. So, now I forget what I was saying. So, I believe she really intensified the abuse because she really wanted me to die from it. When you have pain issues and fatigue issues, any type of psychological stress, let alone physical stress, is going to really have a detriment to your health. And she knew this. She knew she was killing me. And that's why she didn't stop. And I'm certain that if your mom didn't lie to get me, throw me on the street, that she would have killed me. I would have died. She was so abusive that for a couple years I was, for all intensive purposes, bedridden. It was even getting hard for me to walk from the bed to the bathroom. A couple times I actually had to crawl. That's how bad she was abusing me. And I have to admit, it wasn't much physical. There was physical there, and probably a half a dozen incidences that were pretty outrageous, but it was the emotional abuse that probably took the biggest toll on me. Now, as I'm telling you all this, I'm realizing that your mom might find this video. And the sad thing that I know is she's not going to feel guilty about anything that she did. She's going to feel very justified in every single thing she did. A normal person, if they did this to another human being, they would feel so bad. At some point, they would come to a realization, usually while they're doing it, but at least at some point, have some kind of remorse and somehow want to apologize for it, at the very least. But I don't ever expect that of her. In fact, I know that won't happen. She can't do it. She can't do it. She can't feel it. She can't feel what she's done to me. And that's another thing. When you're being abused and you know this person doesn't care what she's doing to you, or it's really overwhelming because, there's no way to talk her out of doing it. Anyway, when she wasn't able to kill me with the abuse, I was at home one day and someone came to the door with the restraining order, which really confused me because I didn't know I had no idea it was coming. I had already agreed to divorce her like almost a half a year earlier. And in that agreement, we actually wrote it out. It said I would get to take care of you during the day. So I would see you basically 5 days a week, a little bit less with holidays, but basically 5 days a week, anytime your mom was at work, and that she would get you all the rest of the time. And I knew I had to compromise down to that, which was really bad for me because I needed to see you more than that. But she's so stubborn, that's the best you can get out of her. And even that she didn't want to do. So because she didn't want to follow that agreement, And I'll show you that agreement someday. But because she didn't want to follow that agreement, she decided to make up lies about me to get me out of the house. Now, I need to backtrack a little bit to kind of let you know how she dominated me. About 6 months after being married, she actually took about $50,000 from me. I didn't find out about it for a few months, because she had absolutely no remorse for doing it. Now, I did get her to sign something that says she was going to give me money back. But she had no intent of doing that. And when we went to family court, she actually lied to the court and said she didn't take any money from me. Which is real crazy because I have proof of it. But that doesn't matter to her. The thing about your mom is she is so arrogant that she thinks she can just get away with anything. And that's really common with her pathology, and you're going to understand what she is someday. So I'm not going to go into detail about what I think your mom is, but you'll figure it out on your own. In any case, a person who's manipulative and lies constantly, they feel they can get away with everything because they're so used to their lies just being accepted. So anyway, to go back to when your mom got the restraining order. You know, some man comes to the door, gives me the restraining order, says I got 30 minutes to get out of the house. So I'm at home with you, and she's at home also when it comes. Which is, if you're really afraid of someone, you're not there when the restraining order comes. But she wasn't, so she was there. And I briefly read over it, and I'm like, what is this? I didn't understand it. She was saying something happened that never happened, so that really confused me. And I turned to her, she came down the stairs with you, and I turned to her and I said, why are you doing this? You know, what is this? Why are you doing this? She gave me two answers. The first thing was, I made her do it. And this is very typical. With all the abuse she did to me, she would always claim it was my fault, that she made me do what she did. Every time she lied to me, and she lied continuously about everything. She would say I would be allowed to go to family events again. Hundreds of times, and then backtrack and not let me go to family events. So anyway, first thing she said was, I made her lie. That's, I believe, a word-for-word quote, or at least as close as I can remember. I made her lie. And then the other thing she said that did confuse me, that I know is true because the way she said it, was, I want to remember as exactly as I can. She tells me that I did this because you threatened to tell my work I was abusing you. And that confused me because I told her that before. After I went to her parents for a couple years and her aunt for a couple years, asking them to intervene and talk to you to stop her abusing me, I did start saying, because that didn't work, I did start saying, I'm going to tell her work that she's abusing me if the abuse doesn't stop. Now, if she cared at all about what she was doing to me, if she had any remorse whatsoever, the better option, the normal option, would be to stop abusing me. But that's not what your mom thinks, because she doesn't have remorse. She doesn't care that she's hurting you. So for her, the option was, I'm going to lie to get rid of him. I'm not going to stop the abuse. I'm going to lie. I'm going to claim he's abusive towards me. I'm going to claim he threatened me. So that's kind of what happened there. I want to talk a little bit about how your mom really dominated me. The thing about her personality, and I don't know if personality is the right word, is that she has to be in 100% complete control. Your mom has never once in her life done anything she didn't want to do. And she feels she has to control literally everything around her. First was the financial control when she stole all my money. Then she wouldn't let me go to family events, which is very distressing, because then I wouldn't be in pictures with you for the holidays, for Halloween, your birthday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, anything to do with any kind of family get-together. I wouldn't be there. And this was all part of her plan to get rid of me, because once she got pregnant with you and had you, she just didn't have any use for me anymore. So wasn't allowed to go to family events. And part of that also was to make sure that the abuse that was happening never got aired in public. So she couldn't, I think part of it why she didn't want me to go to family events is because someone might find out how abusive she is. Because that is one thing that she did fear. She did fear people ever knowing what was going on. Because a lot of times when she was abusing me, and I rarely did this, I did this a few times, but I've said it many more times than I actually did it, that I was recording her abuse. And as soon as I would say that, she would stop the abuse, which was nice. But that was her only real fear or reason to stop, was to make sure no one knew. The other thing she did is what I already told you. She had the ability just not to speak to me, which is a form of domination. She would either tell me I'm not allowed to speak, just demand I don't speak, or she just would just completely ignore me. That's another kind of form of domination. And I've learned a lot about this because I'm in a domestic violence support group. So a lot of things are abusive, but you just don't realize how abusive they are until you talk to other people who've been through it. And abusive people always have the need to completely dominate and control their victims. So anyway, she lied to get me out of the house. And she felt completely justified in that I made her do it. That really wasn't enough for her, though. Initially, she just said, I threatened you. But then she later, after I went to court and family court and told the court I was being abused, I gave the court 2 documents where your mom had written out apologies to me, promising to stop the abuse. And the reason she did that is hundreds of times she apologized and said she would stop, but never did. And I got to the point where I said, I don't believe you. None of this is believable. You're never going to stop abusing me. If you really mean it, write it out. Now, I did very little to make her write it out, other than just ask her to do it. And later, your mom would claim that I forced her to write those apologies, and I did no such thing. I do think, because I've seen her claim this, she was questioned about this by an investigator. She claimed that she was forced to do that because I was going to tell her work that she was abusing me. And that if she didn't give me a written apology, that I would tell her work. And I suppose at the time I was sort of saying that because I had said that I would tell her work about the abuse if the abuse didn't stop, but I never connected it to writing out the apology, because I knew that if anything was going to change, she had to write that apology out on her own free will. And that's why I didn't pressure her, because I really wanted the abuse to stop. So I never tried to connect anything to that apology. And I always tried to say it in the very most benign way. If you are going to stop the abuse, put it in writing. You can't get someone to stop that kind of abuse by forcing them to. And really all I wanted was the abuse to stop so we could have a nice life together. So anyway, I was saying, when saying I threatened her wasn't enough, she decided to say, and I went to court and I said I was being abused, and I showed all this proof. I had 2 years of letters to her parents and aunt, letters and emails that I wrote even before she made any, full 2 years before she made any accusations against me. So the court pretty much knew that I was the abuse victim, or should know, if the court, that particular judge wasn't so prejudiced against men. But as crazy as it seems, even though as a victim, because your mom claimed victimization and that she was threatened, she was given sole custody of you, which is just outrageous, because that's really never done. If you have a good father who wants to be in their child's life, they get at least visitation. And usually it's the abuse victim that gets the child. But not the case in this court, because this judge was just so anti-male. You know, when people let their political opinions come into their judgments, it can wreak havoc on people. So I didn't take it well, because I was abused, and the fact that my child, you, were given to the abuser just made me outraged. I was just insanely upset about it. So after a couple weeks, I started to protest in front of the family court with a sign that said the name of the judge gave my daughter to my abuser. And I did that for 10 weeks. During that time, your mom decided to add that I punched her. Actually, in the first couple weeks she added this, but no one cared that she added this, because it was obviously a ploy for custody and to get me out of your life. So no one took it seriously. The court didn't take it seriously. But the claim was simple, that I punched her in the arm. Nothing more than that. Now that is entirely false, but I want you to understand that even her claim was that little. Now, what she's going to add to that over time, I don't know. I mean, it could get crazy with her, because there's really no lie she's unable to tell. But that was the initial lie, that I punched her in the arm, which didn't even happen. Court knew that was baloney, because they did nothing about it initially. But 3 months later, after I had protested the judge for about 10 weeks, I was to go to court because I violated the misdemeanor restraining order. So your mom got a restraining order, but she said I threatened her, and I violated that by calling her. And when I was talked to you, I was upset, so I said bad things about your mom, which was a violation of the restraining order. But I was under so much emotional stress from not seeing you that, you know, I violated it, and I shouldn't have done it. But when you're being put through all that, and it's happened so suddenly, and all of a sudden your daughter has gone out of your life, and your daughter's your entire life, that's what that's what happens. Now, in all those conversations, I never threatened her. You know, when I did contact her when I wasn't supposed to, and it was all over the phone. I never went to her, nothing like that. Now, I want to back up a little bit to tell you something because I know what she's going to do. I know how this story is going to grow with her over time, and how she's going to say more and more and more abuse happened and all this other stuff. When we had what's called I think it's called a preliminary hearing, I had a horrible attorney, but at least she asked one single question. And that question was, did I ever, when your mom was on the stand, did I ever raise my fist or do any threatening actions to her like that? And she admitted that I hadn't. Now, I'm sure by now that's changed. It's going to change a lot, but at least at that point, she wasn't saying that. And that's the hardest thing with your mom, is you don't know what lie is coming next. Every time you think she can't do anything worse, she escalates things. And that was the way throughout our entire relationship. The verbal abuse and saying things that you just don't say in a relationship probably started about 9 months after we first got together. And she would apologize, and then, after the first time, it might be a couple weeks before she does a similar thing. And usually when she did it, it was just a tiny bit worse than the previous time. And every time, that length of time, that 2 weeks, would become 13 days, 12 days, 11 days. It's a very slow progression. The verbal abuse would become worse and worse until it just became continuous and always became even more abusive. So the length of time between the abuse and the intensity of the abuse just always constantly got ratcheted up. And she could never back away and just stop doing it. It always had to get worse every single time, which was very hard to deal with. So anyway, 10 weeks of protesting, about 3 months after she made her allegation that I punched her in the arm and that she felt threatened by me. I go to court on the misdemeanor violating restraining order. And the day before, I get a phone call saying, the DA's really mad that you've been protesting this judge. You're going to go to jail because of this. My attorney couldn't tell me what the charges were going to be. Just that I was going to go to jail because I protested the judge, because the DA was really mad I did that. So I go to jail and go to court and they put me in jail. And I go to jail thinking, and I got terrorist threat charges against me. So I go to jail, and I'm assuming they've made up terrorist threats against the judge, because there's nothing threatening I ever did. I peacefully protested. There were never a single incident outside the courthouse for a very long time. So there was no real way to say that I threatened the judge. But I was in there because I didn't suspect it was against your mom. Because your mom never felt threatened by me. So, and it had been like 3 months after she made accusations. So it didn't occur to me that it was terrorist threats charge against your mom. But after a few months, I did figure out, and it took like 3 months to figure out that those terrorist threats charges were saying I threatened your mom. And then at some point, and I don't know when it was added, but at some point, and I didn't learn this to more than, I just learned that earlier this year. So about a year and more than a year and a half after I was in jail, I learned that they had a domestic violence charge on me, which I didn't even know about. Because this was hard. The entire time I was in jail, no attorney would talk to me. I spent 350 days in jail without a single attorney really explaining anything to me or letting me go to trial. And this is another thing. Your mom is not going to have any remorse for my time in jail, even though she lied to get me put in jail. I take infusions 3 times a week. And when I was put in jail, I had about 6-7 months saved up of infusion medication sitting in the refrigerator. Now, your mom knows how much I need those infusions not to be in pain. She knows the pain is excruciating. My particular disease, makes you feel like you're being burned and electrocuted alive without these infusions. It is an amount of pain that almost no one, practically no one, has ever experienced in their entire life, this level of pain. The intensity and combined with the duration just blows your mind. And I took a lot of mental damage from being in pain for 350 days. I'm not the same person I was. I suffer panic attacks now. I panic when I think about my time in jail. I get depressed about being tortured. It's really had a profound effect on me. But in any case, any normal person would know that I need this medication and would take the medication to the jail no matter what they thought of the person. And your mom knew I was a good person. But she couldn't even bother knowing the amount of pain I would be in and the amount of additional nerve damage I would take from not having this medication, to just take the medication out of the refrigerator and bring it to the jail. So as a result, I was tortured for a year, because that medication would have stopped at least 7 months of my suffering. But again, your mom doesn't feel remorse. She's not going to feel remorse for the abuse. She's not going to feel the remorse for lying to get a restraining order. She's not going to feel remorse for taking my money. None of this is stuff that she feels completely justified in everything. She's justified that I was tortured in jail, justified that I went to jail. In any case, I'm out now. It took me 350 days to get out when they eventually reduced my bail. And now I'm facing jail again, because that court case is still going on. I can't really say anything about that. I will tell you a little bit. What I can tell you is that she's going to court to make sure I go to jail again. And I think their main reason for doing that is not so much to hurt me. She just doesn't care if she hurts me. What she wants to do is make sure, oh, I go to jail, that's going to be harder again for me to see your daughter, because I'm going to be convicted of domestic violence and terrorist threats. And that'll make it very hard to ever be in your life. And that's why she's doing it. I don't think it's so much to hurt me, but a normal person would care that they did that to another human being. But she won't feel the slightest bit of remorse or empathy. It won't even come in the slightest bit. She'll feel completely justified, and she'll feel that I made her do it. Trust me, those are going to be her exact thoughts, that I made her do it. So that's a hard thing to face, because I don't know if I can face that torture again, because I can't get that medication in jail. And to go through that amount of mind-numbing pain again may break me. I've been out of jail now for a year and about 4 months. It's only now that I've really started to recover, even though I have all these underlying panic attacks and other things and flashbacks to what happened. I can at least function right now. Something I couldn't do for the last more than a year. Now to kind of get back to my original reason for doing this video. I've done everything to be in your life. 22 times, as I said, I contacted your mom through her attorney to be in your life. Maybe 4 to 6 times, I sent letters to your grandma and grandpa asking for at least phone call, really to see you, but also for phone calls to talk to you on the phone. But no one will let me be in your life. And the one thing you need to understand about this restraining order, or not the restraining order, the custody, the child custody, is while it says that I'm not granted specifically to see you, it doesn't restrict me from seeing you. Meaning, if your mom made the choice to let me see you, she could do it. She could give it to you to a friend, drop you off to your grandparents. I could come and see you. She's going to tell you that the restraining order said I couldn't, not the restraining order, well, maybe she'll say the restraining order or the custody said I couldn't see you. That is not the case. It didn't grant me seeing you, but it didn't also say I'm prohibited from seeing you. So she could let me be in your life if she chose. She has complete control. I have no control. Complete control is what your mom must have in her own mind. That's the only thing that matters to her, is to dominate and control. So she controls whether I can be in your life completely, and there's really nothing I can do about it. I can't talk to her. I've asked through her attorney to do what's I call change from a no contact to a no negative contact, which would mean I could talk to her about you. I could make arrangements to see you. But she won't change the order from no contact to no negative contact, which is just like the abuse I got when I was in her home when she wouldn't talk to me. She would just wouldn't talk. It's the same thing now. She won't respond to my communications through attorney, which is the same kind of abuse that I've dealt with your mom for a majority of the time I've known her. So I made this video knowing that she's not letting me back in your life, and that if she's able to get me convicted and sent to jail again, probably won't be in your life till you're at least 16, maybe even 18. And that's crushing to me, because you are the only thing that matters to me, Grace. I'm now 51 years old, and I had you when I was 47. And even before I was 47, for almost a decade, I wanted a child. But then I got sick, and that made it very hard to find a nice woman who would want to have a baby with me. So for a decade before you were even conceived, I needed you in my life. So this is having a profound effect on my health. So as much as getting out of the abusive situation and recovering from the jail has started, I can't get my health back until I'm with you, or at least have you in my life, or at least seeing you and talking to you on the phone. And I'm very worried that because I can't get my health back, I'm never going to be able to work, which is something I could do if I could see you and have a nice life with you. I am sure that I could get my health back enough to do some kind of work. But as long as I'm under the duress of not seeing you, I'm not going to be able to work. As long as your mom has stolen all my money. I'm a person who's a businessman. I used to be an extremely successful businessman by any measure. I am really capable of making a lot of money and providing you with a great life. But as a businessman, I can't really do that without money. And she's taken it all from me. And also, by making all these charges against me, she's made it so in the divorce, I'm not going to be able to probably get, I should get it, but I'm not going to be able to get the increase in value of the home for doing the renovation. I'm not going to be able to get the appreciation on the home for the duration of our marriage. And all this would probably come to a couple $100,000 if you add together my $50,000 and all the, maybe $200,000-300,000 for all I know. I haven't really calculated it. But with that amount of money, even a fraction of that, even just my own money, if you just give me what I brought into the marriage, I could probably start working if I got my health back and I'd see you and provide a great life for you. But she's manipulated everything and lied to such an extent that I can't get any of this stuff done. I can't even really go to family court and go through and get the divorce until this criminal stuff is over. So at the very least, I can get what I'm due in the divorce. I don't know that I would get what I'm due if I went to divorce court right now. I don't think she's going to take me to divorce court because she doesn't want all this to come out, and she doesn't want any chance of being responsible for anything. I'm also stuck in not being able to go to divorce court because I'm still on your mom's insurance, and I can't get those infusions I talked about without that insurance. I talked to Social Security, and I've known for a very long time that without your mom's insurance, I can't get the infusions, which means my condition would be horrible. I would be probably at least couch ridden. Without the abuse, I probably wouldn't be bedridden, but I'd be in a lot more pain. It would make me less mobile. I'd probably, might have another pulmonary embolism. And I don't know if I mentioned that, but during the time your mom was abusing me, I had a pulmonary embolism, which is a blood clot in your lungs. And I don't know what the exact percentage is, but say half the time, those things will just kill you instantly. And that's another reason I knew she was abusing me, because she wanted me to die from something like that. When I did have the pulmonary embolism, she didn't care at all. In fact, I borrowed the car that day. When I finally figured out I had a blockage, and went to the hospital. And her concern after I went to the hospital, was told I had a pulmonary embolism, and they took care of it. I was a half hour late to picking her up from work because I was at the hospital with the car. Didn't care at all about the pulmonary embolism. I don't think she even asked about it, even though I told her about it and I tried to explain to her, how deadly it was. She didn't care. Her concern was I was late with the car and she had to wait half an hour, which is just so normal for her psychology that she didn't care. And I suppose she thought, hey, it's working. So that's what also led me to believe if the abuse didn't stop, I was going to die. And I don't know if I've said this already, but I am 100% certain that if I was still in a relationship with your mom under that kind of mental and stress, and being as bedridden as she was making me, I would be dead today. I have no doubt that you would not have a dad right now. Now, my concern is that you may never know me because keeping you from me is hurting my health. And I hope that's not the case. I hope I make it to when I can see you, if she is able to pull all of this off. I know how much a little girl needs a dad in her life. I didn't really have good parents. They didn't take care of me, and they were very abusive towards me. And that had a tremendous effect on my entire life. And I know how important it is for a little girl to have a dad in her life. It makes me so sad that it's bad enough that your mom doesn't care what she's done to me, doesn't care about the pain she's inflicted, doesn't have any sense of remorse or empathy at all. But she also knows how much this is going to hurt you. There's no way she can't. Your mom is a very intelligent person. She knows that keeping you from me is going to really harm you mentally, because you're going to look back and wonder where your daddy was. And so in any case, at any point in the last 2.5 years, your mom could have stopped. And she could have let me be in your life, and she could have kind of reversed a lot of this damage that's going to happen to you. You have all these lost memories, and all the, the 2.5 years that's lost, we can never get back. But at any time, even going forward, she could let me be in your life and at least recover these memories. We don't have to lose any more memories. But your mom won't do that. She's going to keep escalating it. She doesn't care what it does to you or me. She doesn't care that she could stop. She has a compulsion. And that compulsion is to destroy me because she hates and resents that I would dare want to be in your life. And unfortunately, she doesn't care if you're collateral damage. Now, I know your mom loves you in her own way, but it's a very different way than I love you. I want you to grow up to be strong, able to take care of yourself. I care a lot about if you're socialized. I want you to feel protected, but I also want you to make a lot of your own decisions for yourself. I want to give you a lot of choice in life. Your mom's not going to give you any choice because that's not how she thinks. She's going to try to make you basically just an extension of herself. She's going to treat you well only in order to get your attachment to her. But any other damage she's causing to you, she doesn't care as long as you have that attachment to her. And there's something I want you to look up when you see this video to try to kind of understand what happened here. Look up on YouTube parental alienation. You're going to find that everyone with the way your mom thinks tries to alienate their father from their children. And she's going to kind of elicit you at some point into thinking I'm a bad person. She's going to try to convince you of that. She's going to try to make you say I'm a bad person. She's going to try to make you say you're afraid of me. I know exactly how this plays out. And that's another thing that makes me deal with this. I have no way of controlling it and stopping it. I've gone to court. The courts won't listen to me. Criminal court won't listen to me. The family court won't listen to me. I have no money to hire an attorney. When you don't have an attorney, the courts don't listen to you. They just listen to whatever the attorney says. So I feel powerless to stop any of this. And all I can do is try to fix it after the fact. And this might be 14 years from now, is you're only 4 years before I can ever try to get in a relationship with you. And she's going to have all that time to manipulate you. And you're going to go through all these years of her controlling you. I wish there was something I could do about it, Grace. I will continue to try to do everything I can to be with you. I am very sad all the memories we've lost together. I'm sad the memories we lost when I was living with you, that I wasn't allowed to go to family events. Those are tremendous losses to me, as I know they're going to be to you. The losses we're experiencing since then are overwhelming to me, as I know they're going to really hurt you. And I know the losses for the next 14 years are going to be tremendously hurt you. And the sad thing is, at any point, your mom could do what's best for you and let me in your life and care about your mental state. And I worry you're going to be very depressed by what's happened. I even worry what your feelings are going to be towards your mom. Because eventually you're going to figure this out and you're going to realize that your mom was willing to sacrifice you to harm your own dad. And that's not a lesson I ever want you to learn, but if you don't figure that out, and I know you're going to figure it out, you're going to think your dad wasn't there for you. And I have sent you cards and presents every single week. I've probably averaged about 2 cards a week for the last year, more than a year. I don't know how many presents I've sent, because sometimes I'll send a big box of presents or I'll send an individual present, but I probably sent you 40, 50 presents that I don't even know if you're getting, because she stopped even giving me recordings of it. It takes a lot of cruelty and a lot of hate and resentment and a lot of need to control and dominate